The Marlins bats were ice cold to start the series against the New York Mets.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. Go hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And on today's show, I'm going to talk about the bats for the Marlins in the opening game of this three-game series against the Mets. They're ice cold. What has to change? I'm going to talk about the pitching, how the pitching staff for the Marlins is still giving this team a chance to win each and every night. And finally, in the final segment, who's going to step up? Who is going to bring the juice to this lineup and this team as a whole? That's coming up all on today's show. Let's talk about the Marlins' offensive struggles for a little bit. It's tough to see after the start of the season when you had 3 walk-off wins and everybody was riding high, everyone was excited, and then starting on Friday, you get shut out 10-0, an uncompetitive game. You got to win Saturday. You scored 4 runs, and then you shut out the Braves. And of course, the rainout happens on Sunday. So Monday's game rolls around. You're going to play up in Citi Field against a good Mets team who you just saw the week before. And it was boring. It was slow. Nothing went right for the Marlins offense. And now all of a sudden, you've been shut out twice in the last 3 games. And given the concern that the fans and the media had about this Marlins lineup, that's a concerning trend. Twice in the last 3 games, you still have to face very good pitching teams this month. The Mets are right there. The pitching looks great for them, but just a no-show from the Marlins offensively. 7 hits in the game. Not one of them was an extra base hit. They were all singles. You're not going to win a lot of games if you can't slug. And you're not going to win a lot of games when you can't hit with runners in scoring position when you have the opportunity. They were 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. They scored 0 runs, and the pitching staff, which I'm going to talk about in the next segment, did their job. The pitching staff held the Mets to 2 runs. Juan Soto, Lindor, they kept them in check. And usually when you play a team and you only give up 2 runs, you're going to have a good chance to win that game. But that's not going to happen if you just are inept at the plate. Nobody is doing what they have to do to score runs. There's no identity right now. I talk about the power. The lack of power is very evident early on. This team needs Jesus Sanchez back. This team needs Connor Norby back. And they need people to step up. Eric Wagaman, awful start to the season. Jonah Bride, awful start to the season. Once again, Clayton McCullough goes to his bench later in the game, brings a hitter who hasn't been in the game at all to that point. He's ice cold off the bench, and Jonah Bride goes down looking. Albeit it was a bad strike three call. It was down in the zone, but Bride has to get the bat off his shoulder. And he has to do something. Now, Jonah Bride, I'm starting to worry a little bit about now. You had a good season last year through 70 games, but he's hitting well under 100. Just 2 hits to start the season in 20-plus at-bats. He's been awful. Eric Wagaman, apart from that home run, and he had 2 games, back-to-back games in which he collected a couple hits, he really hasn't done anything. And then you look at somebody like Matt Mervis. Matt Mervis, he was a designated hitter. He's the guy that Jonah Bride pinch hit for. So there's no continuity. There's no consistency with the Marlins lineup and how they operate. Clayton McCullough plays the matchups. That is going to be a trend all season long. He's going to try to get every advantage he can when the Marlins are struggling at the plate. Okay, there's a lefty on the mound in the fifth, sixth inning. Let's bring in Jonah Bride. Let's bring in a right-hander. Matt Mervis is your biggest power threat, but he's not a power threat that's going to necessarily stay in the game the entire distance. Same with Griffin Conine. He's another player who's going to get pinch hit for at times. And that just tells me that the Marlins don't have that one guy that they trust in every single situation. We saw that a few years ago with Jazz Chisholm Jr. when Don Mattingly was the manager and Jazz was in a late game situation against a lefty. Oftentimes he would get pulled. And that was an indictment on Jazz not being able to hit a left-hander. And that's an indictment on this Marlins lineup not being a complete lineup where they can attack both types of pitchers, right-handers and left-handers. That's why they're going to continue to play the matchups. And it's not good because they just don't have a deep lineup. They don't have a deep bench. And if they struggle, if the power hitters struggle, then there's nobody really that steps up. Xavier Edwards isn't a power hitter. I mean, Graham Pauley, I like him. I think he's got potential, but he's still young. He's not proven. There's a lot of young players, and we're seeing that youth and that inexperience show up. And when you've been shut out twice in the last 3 games, it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling because especially when you look at the pitching staff and what they did, giving up only 2 runs, you want to go out and win that game. You're not going to win games when you can't hit a double, you can't hit a home run. You have 7 home runs on the year. You look at the team stats across Major League Baseball, home runs, there's only a few teams sitting below 10 home runs. The White Sox, the Brewers, you have the Mets, who that's obviously going to change. Francisco Lindor starts out slow. Juan Soto is going to get going. The Braves, that's going to change. They're too talented for that. And the Marlins are sitting at 7 home runs, and they're just middle of the pack with the doubles. They're not a good hitting team when it comes to power. Jesus Sanchez can change that. Connor Norby can change that, but they're not in the lineup right now. And that has to definitely be on the minds of many Marlins fans, or when are these guys coming back? Because I do think they're going to provide a significant boost to this lineup moving forward. And hopefully that's going to allow the Marlins to win some games. Right now they're 5-5. They're just treading water after a really exciting start with the Pirates. They're just kind of treading water, staying afloat here. The pitching is what gives this team a chance. That is what has been the most impressive aspect of this club so far this season. And I hope it continues. I'm going to dive into the pitching staff and what's been so good about them. And that's coming up right after this. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving the new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. You'll love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or you're diving into the player props. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine your live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Go head over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's FanDuel.com for $250 in bonus bets. If you're an everyday listener, I do appreciate you checking out Locked On Marlins each and every day. Share the podcast. Let's grow this thing as the season continues. If this is your first time, I appreciate that. hit the like button, hit subscribe, leave a review, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. And I'm talking about the pitching staff for the Marlins to start the season. It's been really impressive. Given the injuries to the starting rotation with Ryan Weathers and Edward Cabrera, and given the lack of length that the Marlins starters have offered the team to start the season, I think that's an organizational philosophy. The ERA for this team is really solid. They got a 3.68 ERA. That's good for 10th in all of Major League Baseball. And the bullpen has been the most impressive part of this pitching staff. For example, Valente Beozo, who pitched 2 innings in AAA Jacksonville on Friday, got the start. He was the spot starter, if you will, on a Monday, in which Sandy Alcantara was initially expected to start this game, but he's having a child. Him and his wife are having a baby. Congratulations to the Alcantara family. And he's on paternity leave. So the Marlins needed a starter, at least to open up the game. And Valente Beozo was the guy who got the call up from AAA. He gets recalled, comes in, and gives you a decent outing. Again, he pitched 2 innings on Friday, so I didn't expect him to go 6 innings or even 5 innings. His pitch count, he finished about 75 pitches, which I think is reasonable. 3 2/3 innings, so he almost gets through 4. Gives up 5 hits, and that's how Beozo's stuff is just going to play. He's going to give up some base hits. He just has to limit the serious damage, the home runs, the doubles, the triples. And he did so for the most part. Only gave up a run, walked 2 batters, struck out 2. Control's another big factor for Beozo. But all in all, when you get through just about 4 innings from a spot starter like Beozo, and you only have 1 run, I'm fine with that. I'm completely fine with that. Shout out to Valente Beozo. Tyler Phillips has been great for the Marlins to start the season. Hasn't given up an earned run yet in over 6 innings of work. He came in, got the final out of the 4th inning, and then pitched the 5th. He was perfect. He gave up a hit, gave up a walk, but he didn't give up any runs. And again, the story of the back half of this game was the bullpen doing what it had to do. Lake Bacher came in. He was good. Pitched an inning and 2/3. Multiple innings from these guys. Bacher can do it. Tyler Phillips can do it. Veneziano gets the final out. And Veneziano, he gave up a couple hits, but again, they limited the damage. They didn't allow a run. All in all, the Marlins bullpen was really good, except for George Soriano in the end, who gave up a run. Soriano's ERA now is at 9, and there's going to be a real question now moving forward. Does Soriano continue to get work, especially when there are options in the minor leagues? Soriano's time in Miami, not to speculate on the future, but if he continues to struggle, I'm going to have to say, all right, enough's enough with Soriano, because I just don't have any confidence with the guy in the later innings. And it really didn't matter that he gave up that insurance run to the Mets because the Marlins bats were so ice cold. It didn't matter. The bullpen could have been perfect and the Marlins still would have lost 1-0 tonight. And that's just the story of the game. But the pitching staff is really impressive. I think the bullpen in particular has some legit guys who are weapons. Lake Bacher has really impressed me. Lake Bacher throws pretty hard. He's got a really good sweeper. You have Anthony Bender. I talked about him on yesterday's show. There's a lot of options. And remember, they're still missing 2 of the highest leverage arms from last year. Declan Cronin and Andrew Nardi. Both those guys started the season on the injured list, and they're waiting to come back. Nardi on the 60-day injured list. Hopefully, he comes back in late May. That would be awesome because he's a lefty, and the Marlins only have 1 left-hander in the bullpen right now in Veneziano. But overall, the pitching staff from the bullpen perspective and the starting rotation. Now, the starting rotation isn't going to give you a ton of innings. I don't think, besides Sandy Alcantara, and even he hasn't pitched above 6 innings yet. Sandy Alcantara is the only guy I feel comfortable about saying might pitch into the 8th inning at some point or the 7th inning at some point. I don't think anyone else does. That's not the Marlins' philosophy right now. Even with a veteran like Quantrill, even with somebody like Max Meyer, who has had 2 really good starts to begin the season. Once it's the 6th inning, he finishes the 6th, he's done. That's the absolute cap for the starter so far. And that makes the bullpen be that much more important. But Meyer has really impressed. Sandy is going to be Sandy. He's been a little bit off to start the season, but when he comes back from paternity leave, I expect him to be completely dialed in moving forward. And then you have Cal Quantrill. He had a really good bounce back start against the Braves. Connor Gillespie, he's starting Tuesday's game against the New York Mets. That's going to be a really interesting game to watch Gillespie do his work and continue to make a case to stick in the rotation, especially that Edward Cabrera is on his way back. So Connor Gillespie, again, starting on Tuesday, he's battling for a rotation spot. Nothing is guaranteed with him because Edward Cabrera and Ryan Weathers being on the injured list, that's what got him into the starting rotation. So that's kind of a must-watch at this point. Gillespie's 3rd start of the season. Hopefully he has a decent outing. And then, of course, Max Meyer is now must-watch baseball, right up there with Sandy Alcantara, as he's trying to continue to establish himself as a legit starting pitcher for the Marlins and prove himself why they took him with the 3rd overall pick back in 2020. So overall, the ERA top 10 in all of baseball. Absolutely love to see that. I'd like to see them limit the walks. I talked about this at the beginning of spring training, or rather towards the end of spring training. Right now, they're 6th in most walks given up from the pitching staff. They got 42 walks. The strikeout numbers aren't crazy. They only got 80 strikeouts so far, which is okay. They're trying to find the list. They're 21st in strikeouts. So 80 strikeouts through 93 innings, little less than a strikeout an inning. But the walks, you got to limit the walks because free passes are going to bite you, especially in the later innings. Most important for the bullpen and also for the starters. If you want to see them get through 5 innings, get through 6 innings, they got to all limit the walks, especially you, Edward Cabrera, when you come back from your rehab assignment. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about the Marlins need somebody who's going to bring the juice, who's going to bring the excitement. They've been lacking that this season. I feel like they're all business and there's no energy. Sometimes you need to have some energy in the clubhouse and energy on the field. It makes a team go a long ways. Jazz Chisholm Jr. brought it for a few years for the Marlins. I want to see somebody step up in that role. That's coming up right after this. And this episode is brought to you by our friends at Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with 2-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. And for me, when I have tried Just Ingredients, it tastes really good and it's really easy to make. You just mix it with some milk, shake it up in your shaker bottle, and you got it. You're good to go. The chocolate flavor is absolutely delicious. So whether you're recovering after a workout or you need an energy boost, the grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver real results. Visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. A reminder, hit me up with any questions you have for the episode. Mailbag episode will always be Friday, where I'll answer all your questions and comments, anything you want me to mention on the show surrounding the Marlins. We got to talk about who is going to bring the energy for the Marlins, right? Jazz Chisholm Jr. brought the juice every night. I mean, he had the chains, he had the swag, the dyed hair. He was the face of the Marlins from a national scale. Yes, Sandy Alcantara was right up there too. But in terms of personality, Jazz Chisholm Jr. personified electricity. He personified swag. He was the guy. You know, he got on the cover of MLB The Show. And now he's gone. He's in New York. And he's making a national name for himself. And I only want success for Jazz. But I think the Marlins need somebody like that. Some personality to step up and have fun playing baseball. And bring the guys together and energize this clubhouse. The last couple games, it's just kind of felt dead. Nobody's really bringing the energy. And you saw that, especially on the offensive side of things, when they get shut out two times in the last 3 games. Jesus Sanchez is someone who I feel like can bring that energy. Brian De La Cruz. I always remember Brian De La Cruz, and he might not have been a good defender or a huge asset offensively besides the power. He was expendable. You can make that argument. But De La Cruz had fun playing baseball. He was a funny guy to watch play baseball. Jesus Sanchez is the same way. You look at, sometimes when I'm on Twitter and I go on the GIFs and I look at Brian De La Cruz GIFs, and it's always something fun he's doing, whether he's wearing the sombrero, he's doing his home run celebration when he puts the fingers down after every home run when he rounds first base. The Marlins need that energy. They need that juice. Jesus Sanchez, I think, when he comes back, is going to be a big part of that. But besides him, which of the younger guys can do that, can bring the energy even when their game might be off, even when they're struggling a little bit? They still stay true to themselves and have a positive attitude and encourage everybody else around them. Connor Norby, I think, has put a lot of pressure on himself to be a cornerstone player for the Marlins and to be that guy that many fans felt Jazz Chisholm Jr. was going to be. Connor Norby publicly has said he wants to hit 30 home runs in a season, this season in particular. And it's really frustrating from his end because he started the season on the injured list and he hasn't been able to get out there and be with his guys. But if you look at his posts on Twitter, on X, when the Marlins are winning, he's cheering them on. He's so geared up and ready to get back into the games. I can tell that for sure. And I think Norby is someone that can bring the energy and excitement to the Marlins offense, and that's going to rub off on everybody else surrounding him and provide that spark plug for the Marlins bats. Norby can't get back here soon enough. I really think Jesus Sanchez can't get back soon enough. And I want to just see the Marlins stay afloat until they do. Offensively, you knew that this team was going to have their dry spells. We're witnessing one right now. 4 runs in the last 3 games. It's not going to cut it. It's not going to win you a lot of ball games. Hopefully you can snap out of it and rebound against the Mets team that has won 5 in a row now and is racing past you in the division. Not that you were expected to compete in the division, but you want to compete, you want to grind out games, and you want to win games. And so it's a good opportunity in the second game of the series to snap out of that funk, rally the troops, bring the energy, have fun doing so, have fun playing the game of baseball, because at the end of the day, it is just a game. It's an awesome game that the players get paid for playing. And many of us, including myself, would love to be in their shoes and play that game. This team needs energy, man. This team needs a spark. I feel like sometimes to start the season, ever since the walk-offs, the third walk-off happened, I mean, that was energy. That was electricity. And it was over, and they lost 2 out of 3 to the Mets. And it was just, you go into Atlanta, you give up 10 runs, and it just feels dead right now from an energy perspective. So Connor Norby, we need you back, man. Who else? Griffin Conine. I like what Griffin Conine does in the field. He made an awesome diving play early in the game. I think it was the third inning or so. Beoza leaves one up to Mark Vientos. Vientos rips it with a runner in scoring position. And Conine makes a terrific diving catch. Gets up. He is pumped up. That's the energy this team needs from an overall perspective. Conine, keep bringing that same juice. Connor Norby, bring the juice when you come back. Pitching staff, I want to see some emotion out there. I want to see some bulldog mentalities from a starting pitcher. Max Meyer, Connor Gillespie. Gillespie, you're fighting for a rotation spot. Max Meyer, you've been doubted your entire career with the Marlins. You've gone through so much. You've gone through Tommy John surgery. Go out there and make a point on Wednesday. Maybe you can win 2 out of 3. I want to see this team win. I am not going to sit here and throw in the towel and say, well, the Marlins, the offense is what we thought it was. They're ice cold right now. It's not going to heat up. No, snap out of it. Let's go get a couple dubs. There's absolutely no reason why you can't battle your way into a couple wins in a very difficult environment to play baseball, and it is ice cold. I talk about the bats being ice cold. It is literally ice cold in New York right now. The temperature is going to be dropping into the 30s. I mean, the game time tomorrow or Tuesday was kicked back to 4:10 because of the elements. So it's not necessarily a fun situation to play in, which is another reason why this team has to show up motivated and ready to go. You're 5-5 right now. You're staying above water. You haven't sunk yet. The Atlanta Braves, on the other hand, they're 1-8. Wouldn't want to be in their shoes right now. If anything, before the season, I would have thought the Marlins were going to be 1-8, not the other way around. So Gillespie, this bullpen, keep doing what you're doing. Keep giving your team a chance. And who's going to get that big hit? Somebody needs to step up with timely hitting when it matters most. If there's runners in scoring position, you can't have another offer. You have to drive in those runs when given the opportunity. Who is going to step up? Eric Wagaman, Jonah Broad, we got to get it going. They got to get it going because right now they're fading fast in my book. I don't want to sound off the alarms prematurely, but Jonah Bride had a really good 70 games last year, but before that, he wasn't a very good hitter. He has to get back in that groove of things. Eric Wagaman, you have to justify why the Marlins signed you to a split contract this offseason. Because right now, you're not looking like a major leaguer. Matt Mervis cut down on the strikeouts. Let's get another 2 bombs. Let's go. Bombs away. Let's bring the power. Bring the juice. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked on Marlins. As always, I appreciate you listening or watching. Stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.